He's one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I know he's one of your favorites as well. I want to especially thank Don Wentworth for all of his help with Roger's photographs, and then just to tell everybody that, yes, it is a little dark in here today, but we found that with the tone of Roger's pictures, and we're using Don's projector instead of ours, things are a little different. And so in order to have things show up well on our YouTube channel, so that you can go back and review and you can have your friends look at it, and Roger's grandchildren and everybody all over the world will be able to tune in and see this program.
I hope not.
I know it's going to be a lot of fun, but that's the reason we're keeping it a little dark in here today. So, without further ado, Roger Stewart.
The first thing I want to do today, I want to introduce two of my children that are here, and I'd like them to at least wave. Tom and Linda Stewart, and Deb Bowman from Monticello. So they're here today. They said they would keep me from saying something stupid.
Impossible.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Impossible.
Okay, I'm ready to go. This is the first picture I've got today, and that is a picture that's almost 90 years old. And on top of the load of hay is my dad. Standing by the horses is Bud Eckelberg, which would be Eloise Rubel's older brother. And that little guy right there, that's me. And so when I was thinking about what I want to do in my life, my first thought was, well, I want to be a farmer. And then I got to looking around, and it looks like a lot of hard work, especially with the hay, and it was really difficult. So I wasn't sure about that. So the next thing I thought about was a thing that I dreamed of. Next picture, please. And that's me with my pony, Calico. And so I wanted to be a cowboy. And Calico was a feisty little pony. You can tell from the way he's got his head down that he wants to get into trouble. Anyway, I was thinking I was going to be a cowboy. So one day we were riding Calico, and we usually tied Calico up to a tree or a post or something like that. And that particular day we tied Calico to a cream can. Unfortunately, the cream can was empty. And when Calico moved his head, the cream can went between his legs, and the last we saw of Calico, he was running over the hill with a cream can nipping at his heels. Next. This is a picture. I want to back up a little bit. The third thing that I dreamed about doing was when I went to country school for the first time. And so my first day I got to school, and Harriet Fowler was my teacher. And Harriet looked at me when I got into the country school. That was Fairfield Independent was the name of the school. It was near where Brandenburg Drainage is now, and Ray and Chris Johnson lived there at the present time. Anyway, that was where my school. So I went for the first day of school, and Harriet looked at me and she said, well, Roger, we'd like you to sharpen pencils. And so I thought, okay, I'll sharpen pencils. And I kind of liked it. You know, it was fun. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll be a professional pencil sharpener. But that didn't work out very good either. People said to me, I think you can look a little higher than that. This picture here that we've got up right now is a picture of me, and our neighbor at the time was Rosella Holtz, and was Rosella Ryder, and she's passed at the present time. Next. Before we get to this picture, I want to tell a couple stories about country school. We lived a mile from the school that I just described, and it was uphill both ways, of course. And the one thing that I want to tell you about is four different things that I remember. The first thing was that we had a teacher named Mrs. Poole. And Mrs. Poole was never quite on time to school. She would get a little bit late at 9 o'clock, and we would get there. Well, this particular day, Mrs. Poole hadn't arrived, and we were at the school. And one of us, I don't know who, decided, well, we'll hide behind the woodhouse. So we went around behind the woodhouse and hid. Mrs. Poole came. She looked around. There was nobody there. She went home, and we went home. It was a great day. The second thing I'd tell you about is that when we were in school, in country school, you know, the war was going on, World War II. And one of the things that the teacher thought we should do, and it was probably a good idea, a project, was that we would go out in the countryside and collect milkweed pods to use for life preservers. Now, it probably wasn't very educational, but it's good exercise, and we enjoyed it a lot. And can't remember how many milkweed pods we got, but I know we gathered some up. It was in the fall of the year. The third thing that I want to mention about country school was that our country school, Fairfield Independent, was a little higher class, we thought, than other country schools, because most of the country schools at that time had outdoor privies. And our school had an indoor restroom. Now, it didn't have flush, so you could call it an indoor outhouse. Indoor outhouse. So we had an indoor outhouse, and one of the students had been kind of naughty one day, and Mrs. Poole decided that she was going to have him stay after school. So Mrs. Poole stayed with this little boy, unnamed little boy. A lot of you would know the name of this boy. Anyway, he asked the teacher, Mrs. Poole, if he could go to the indoor outhouse. And so Mrs. Poole said, yes, but we're going to stay after school. Well, the little boy, unnamed, went to the indoor outhouse and went right out the indoor outhouse window and went home. Mrs. Poole was not happy. This is a picture of 5 boys that were in my class in grade school, in country school. I have one more story I almost hesitate to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. Mrs. Poole loved to do little productions or little plays, or we always had a picnic in the spring of the year, a Christmas program. And Mrs. Poole said, we're going to do a little play. And unfortunately, it happens that one of the players in this play is a girl. So, Roger, we're going to have you dress up as a girl. I wasn't exactly happy about it, but it was teacher pressure, and I thought it was funny. So I dressed up as they dressed me up as a little girl. They had me with a wig. They had me with a nice cut dress, and then they took my picture. This is a picture I'll show you because you can't see it. But I was a beauty, I'll tell you that. And this is these 5 boys that were in our class. From the end, on my left, or your left, is Bill Richardson, then Billy Miller, then that is Paul Miller. There's me, right there on the right-hand side, and David Miller. And we went to country school all 8 years together. Next. This is 8th grade. This is 8th grade graduating class, 1945. And you can see these are all country kids that came to graduation from 8th grade into the middle school. That's on the middle school steps. and there's about 150 kids there. And people that you might know in that group were Kenny Burns, Kevin's dad, Jerry Mayberry, the Millers, Phyllis Miller, Ellen Getler, all country kids that were in the class. And they took our picture. I think we took a little test, but it was easy. And so we went on to the individual schools in Jackson County. And what I remember about it was that when we first showed up at high school, I think there was a little bit of looking down at country kids and getting assimilated to the class, but we did that pretty quickly. So it was a lot of kids ready to go to high school. Next. This is a picture of a country that is actually a picture of Fairfield Independent. And if I can point this, if I can point this out, I got it. There, right there is my dad. And also, right there, tucked in there is Harriet Fowler, my first teacher. So that's the first time our family went to country school at Fairfield Independent with the inside outhouse. Next. This is the same picture, and it's got the names, and I'm sorry, I don't think I can read those names, but it's the same picture with the names underneath it. There would be names that you'd probably recognize. Next. This is a picture of my grandfather. My grandfather's name was George Washington Tabor. And George Washington Tabor was in the Iowa House, I believe. He was in the Iowa House or the Iowa Senate. And by the way, sitting down, that is my grandmother, and I think that's me. I wouldn't count on it, but I think that's me on the lap of my grandfather. But the story in regard to my grandfather, George Washington, they called him GW. George Washington Tabor ran against Carolyn Pendry. And Carolyn Pendry was the first lady who ever got elected to the Iowa House. And the story is, my grandfather, GW, when he lost to a lady, he went to bed for 3 days. He was so embarrassed. An interesting thing in regard to George Washington Tabor was his father was named Andrew Jackson Tabor. So they all had presidents' names. I'm glad they didn't call me Theodore Roosevelt. Next, please. This is a picture, and maybe Bonnie can help me with this a little bit. This is a picture of the Orr family, and this would be a picture of
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, and she was a sister to Bonnie's grandmother and my grandmother. My grandmother's name was Belle, and your grandmother's name was
Olive.
Okay, so that's our shirt-tail relation, and that's why I'm always trying to be nice to Bonnie. Next, please. This is a picture of Howard Tabor, and Howard Tabor ran for the Iowa House. He served in the I believe in the House, and this is where his announcement that he was running for Iowa House. And that would have been in about the 1960s, sometime in that area. Anyway, another Tabor running for something. Next. This is my mom, Eloise. And she was, of course, the Tabor. And she was all fancied up there, wasn't she? She was in the outdoors. Next. This is, you won't be able to read this, but I couldn't hardly read it myself. But this is a story about how my grandfather, Andrew Jackson Tabor, died. It's an obituary, and the obituary tells everything. you know, how he fell when he died, had a stroke, and it just goes on, and talk about the neighborhood. It was just real extensive, and it was interesting to read. Next. This is our house, the original house of the Stewarts, and this house was on Codfish Hollow, and it was. This is the original house, and it was right on the road. And I've got another picture. Next picture, please. Oh, this is maybe a little bit of out of order, but this is a picture or a clipping of 100 years ago. It talks about Baldwin, and I believe it talks about George Washington, Wayside Farm. But the interesting thing about it, at the bottom, you may not be able to read this, a couple weeks ago, we had a program on the Klondike. And the bottom clip in this, it said, laboring men wanted for the Klondike Dam, principally per day, at 17 cents per hour. That takes a long time to say, I'm saying. Next picture, please. This is a picture of the original farm, the Stewart farm, and it's got some older buildings and the barn at the left. Take note of that barn on the left. In the middle of the picture is a granary, and those buildings are gone. Next, please. This is again a picture of the Stewart house on Codfish Hollow. And that was the original house, and it got a little bit in disrepair. And I came home when I was working at the bank. I came home from the bank one day, and I knew that sometimes my mother, Eloise, and Tom Stewart were in cahoots. And I came home from the bank, and I said, "Well, anything happened today?" And I don't know whether it was Tom said or Grandma Gigi said it. He said, "Oh, we burned down the house today." I almost said, "Whose house did you burn down?" Anyway, it was kind of a surprise to me, and so
he wasn't very happy.
Grandma was really excited and wanted to do it.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, well, they're blaming it on Grandma.
Yeah, she's not here to defend herself.
Anyway, I want to go back. So what I did, can we back up one picture again? If not, I can tell. That barn on the very left-hand side of the screen was a barn that also was in disrepair, and I burned that down.
So he gets it naturally.
The interesting thing about it is that nobody said anything about it. Nobody came and said, "Your barn's on fire," because I did it in the middle of the night. Next, please. Well, that's the same picture again. This is a picture. This is a picture of my grandpa and a horse. At that time, horses were much in vogue, and I'm not sure where it is taken, but it's a picture of a nice horse. Next. What do we got here? This is another picture of my grandfather Stewart, and I'm on the horse, and I was always unsure because, you know, they always took a picture of the horse and me, and I think sometimes they were really more interested in the horse, and I was like something on an emblem on the front of a fancy car, you know. Next, please. Oh, there even the horse again. And that was taken on our heritage farm east of town, and that is my grandfather, and that's me when I was about 2 or 3 years old. Next. Again, my grandfather and a nice puppy or dog, and I'm in there somewhere. This is a picture you may not understand very well, but it's something that everybody had when I was growing up. This is, on the Heritage Farm, this is our woodshed. And it was a fine woodshed, I'm telling you that. And everybody had a woodshed, something to keep the wood in, so they had wood for the winter. It was a fine building, and I found this picture and I kind of have forgotten about it. Next. This is a picture, this is a vintage picture. This vintage picture is a field work being done, and Bonnie and I want to believe that the ladies in it were our grandmothers, but we don't know. Next picture. Now, not everybody takes a picture of their hogs, but at that time people were, you know, very, very interested in their livestock, and it was the main thing that they cared about. This is a picture. I'm on the this is my dad is on the right of the picture. My grandfather is next, and the one on the left is my uncle. I don't know where this was taken, but those are mighty fine hogs. Next. This is a picture. This is a picture of my mom and Edna Huffman. Is that right, Edna?
Looks like it.
Yeah. Edna Huffman it was the grandmother of Miriam Huffman and Patty Huffman, that probably a lot of you know. Anyway, I don't know what they're doing, but they're having a good time. Next. This is a, you know, in the beginning of the program, I said I would like to be a farmer. Well, my dad died, and I came home to be a farmer. This is a picture of Jenny and I when we were we hadn't been married. Debbie is at the bottom. That's you.
I know.
And in Jenny's arms is Michael, our middle son, who is in Minneapolis. And that's me, looking pretty disheveled and wondered where the next dollar is going to come from. But I love the picture. And the person in the middle is Hank Flegel.
Yeah.
And we worked with Hank Flegel. He helped me. I was just a young guy, and he helped me. We picked corn together. And next picture will tell you a little more about that. That's me on my fine corn picker. And I picked the corn, and Hank hauled it away. The other thing I'll mention at this period of time is that everybody in their lives have somebody that you remember that helped them. And Hank Flegel helped me, but I really remember two men who helped me when I was alone, with my mother, of course, and Jenny, but helped me farm. And they were Charlie Sneklaw and Cecil McClyman. Cecil McClyman had one arm, he had the arm taken off in a corn picker accident, and it severed in a corn picker accident. But they came to my aid when I really, really needed it. And we worked back and forth for years. They helped me, I helped them, and we were really having a good time. It was before I went into banking. Next. This is a picture I like. It was in the paper. Probably I'm sure it was done by Melville's. I think probably your dad took that, or somebody from the paper took it, Doug. I love the picture. Picture of when I was farming, and that was a nice looking calf. Next. Well, does anybody recognize these people? This is yes, can anybody, you're not counting, Tom. On the left is Tom Stewart. And in the middle was Mark McClyman, Cecil's son. And on the right is Michael Stewart, his brother. I love the picture. This is what we all look like in country school. Yeah. We all look like that. Next. This is going ahead in a generation. And this is Fairfield Independent. And this is all the students at the time that Deb's in the middle. Wait a minute, let me see if I have
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
She was probably thinking about, she was probably planning what she was going to do with her life. I hope she wasn't thinking about sharpening pencils. Down here in the corner is Michael Stewart. Up here in the top are the other kids. Can somebody from the school help me with those a little bit? Jean or Jerry? Who are some of the kids that are there? Are any of the Shekel kids there?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
uh-huh,
On the back right is Dennis Shekel.
right,
Then the next to him is Gary Elsner.
correct,
Oh, okay.
Then Carol Denter.
correct,
Bodenhofer now.
right.
The next one, the tall one, is Dale Lemkool. Jane Denter. Steve Miller. And Sue Denter.
And the author would be, which one was the author?
Carol.
Carol is,
To the right of the tall
One
one.
more down, over.
There
There
you
you
go.
go, yeah.
There.
okay. So,
You okay?
are you in the picture?
No, I am not. Jerry is.
Okay,
Jerry is on the right in the middle.
right there?
No,
No, way on the right.
way on the right in the white, that's me,
There.
yeah.
That's you?
She can identify the younger
I
ones.
would change a bit, yeah. The next two are Nolteens. And the next two are Nolteens.
Mary Nolting, then Karen Nolting.
And then Diana Miller is
Yep.
next, then me, and then another Nolteen.
Karen, or Nancy, no, Karen.
Yeah, and then Miriam Hoffman is next, or one of the, yeah, and then next, the little boy next to her, I
Ed
said
Hines.
Kevin.
I think it's Ed Hines.
Ed Hines.
I would say yes.
I thought it was a Kevin. And then down below is Dale Nims, other side, I'm sorry, Dad, other side,
Oh,
yeah,
I think that's Daryl Elsner.
could be, could be.
Chuck Fegan.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, Jeff Egan.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Then next one is Lynn Richardson.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And next one is, I think, Gary
That
Richardson.
would be right.
And then Mike Stewart,
Yeah.
and then Greg Richardson. And the last little boy, I don't know.
Ed
Edward
Hendrickson.
Ed Hendrickson.
That would have been too big a crew to hide behind the woodshed, wouldn't it? Anyway, what year would that have been?
1961.
1961. Thank you for identifying, and because I wouldn't have been able to do that. Thank you, Jane and Deb and whoever did. Next, on the little boy in the last picture was Mike Stewart, and this is Mike Stewart when he graduated from Harvard Law School, and I have to have it in there.
Wow. Awesome.
And I am equally as proud as Deb and Tom. They're doing a great job, but I just couldn't pass this up because of the giant leap between country school and Harvard Law School. That's a giant leap. But
It is.
Tom is doing and Linda are doing the Heritage Farm, and Deb has done such a great job at Monticello teaching. So I'm blessed. Next. Obviously, I went into the Senate, and this is a picture. I'm not going to go into the Senate, I'm not going to go into elections, and that's for another program. But this is, at the end of the day, after 8 years, and Bob Osterhaus knows, they do a little thing for you at the end of the session if you're retiring. And this is when I'm retiring, and it says I did 8 years. I'm not sure, I think I did. Next. This, when I talked to Bonnie about doing this program, Bonnie said, I said, well, we've traveled. And Bonnie said, we don't do travel logs. So I'm sneaking this picture in. Bonnie, don't look the other way, Bonnie. This is not travel. But where this is, we took the whole family. At this time, it was in the late 90s. We took the whole family to Ireland. I love this picture. It's a picture, we are sitting on a bay, on the rocks, on the coast of Ireland. We're having lunch. On the left-hand side is Michael. On the right-hand side is Deb. And
No, that's me.
That's Tom.
Tom, I'm sorry. This is Tom. And then, I don't know who this is, maybe a stranger, I don't know. Anyway, Debbie was out studying or something. I don't know what she was doing. But anyway, it's a great picture, it's a fond memory, and that's all the travel log I'm going to do today. Next picture. This is when I went to Des Moines in regard to being in banking for 50 years. And, oh no, I'm sorry.
It's a stockholders meeting.
This is a stockholders meeting, I'm sorry. This is a stockholders meeting, and this is the employees that were in the stockholders meeting in 1970. And these are all the people that worked in Maquoketa State Bank at that time. And the footings of the bank at that time, this goes back to the really beginning of the bank, and the footings, which is the amount of cash or obligations that you have, in the beginning was $1 million. And so it went for a number of years struggling to get out of the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And then in 1966, Ed Tubbs and John Fogerland bought it, and then the 1966 is about here, and then it started to grow. But it was a tiny little bank, and I was lucky enough to talk about people who helped you. I was fortunate enough to be hired by Ed Tubbs and John Fogerland in 1966. They came, I came about 3 months later. So I talk about Charlie Sneckloff, Cecil McClyman, Ed Tubbs, John Fogerland, changed my life and helped me. So I hope you recall the people that have helped in your life. Next. This, what the heck is this?
Stockholders. The directors.
Yeah, this stockholders, I can't read that.
Yeah, directors and stockholders.
Okay, this is directors and stockholders at that period of time in 1970, I believe. Next. Now, I'm back on square one. This is when I was able to finish 50 years at the bank, the Maquoketa State Bank. And at the end of that period of time, you're honored by the Banking Association. And so that was in 2000, and see, I was in 70, that was in 2018 or so.
16.
And so I was honored for being in banking for 50 years.
A nice honor.
What's that?
A nice honor.
Oh, thank you. And then this year, I'm going into my 58th year in a month from now.
Wow.
That's a long time, and I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a great thing for, I hope, a good thing for Maquoketa, and I think everybody at the bank. Thanks for the patronage that you've given us and the trust you had in Maquoketa State Bank. So I thank you. Everybody at Maquoketa State Bank, thank you. Next. Next. This is a little. I'm kind of proud of this, but I kind of put it in the last minute. In the late 1990s, we did a lot of work in regard to economic development in Maquoketa. Generac came to Maquoketa Family Dollar came to Maquoketa, and there were a number of other smaller industries that started up in Maquoketa at that time. And on the team that was the economic development team at that time consisted of Linda Stewart, Steve Flynn, leaves me right now, but they were all good people that were on. Oh wait, it says at the bottom. Don't let me forget Steve Flynn, Dwayne Stickley, Linda Stewart, and Brian Wagner. Anyway, at the end of the kind of period of time, they wrote a poem, and the poem talks about Roger the Hun. That says that I went after, and the way that was set up, Brian Wagner, the first 4 lines, Linda Stewart's the next 2 lines, Dwayne Stickley, the next 4 lines, Steve Flynn, the last 4 lines. So don't pay attention to it, it's something that I like. Next picture. This is, are we getting close to 1 o'clock? How are we doing?
You're fine, keep going.
Okay. This is a certificate of recognition, and it came from some folks at the legislature, and it talks about the fact that can somebody read that for me? Can you?
Having been brought to our attention by the Iowa Democratic Caucus and Senator Roger Stewart, Senator Roger Stewart deserves recognition for being appointed the permanent chair and only member of the Democratic Bankers Committee. Now here, therefore, is considered in consideration of the foregoing. We, the undersigned, do hereby extend our congratulations, witness in our minds, on the 17th of March, 2010.
The funny part about that is I was the only one. Only one that was eligible. There were no other Democratic bankers anywhere. So it was a joke. It was a joke. Next. This is something I hold dearly. This is from North Bend School. And what it says, Roberta, can you read this again?
The majestic Queen Lori.
Her Majesty.
Her Majesty, Queen Lori. Why don't you, maybe you can.
I can't.
D-O-T.
Hereby
Decree.
decrees that Senator Roger Stewart will henceforth be known throughout the land of North Bend as Yang A.
It's a name you can't pronounce.
It's like it's Chinese or something.
It's totally meaningless.
Because he is the supreme ruler of all that we can see.
Of North Bend District. And so,
By Laura Eaglesizer.
yeah.
I think it says.
Yep,
Yep.
it does.
So it's just a fun thing. Don, you were doing that, weren't you?
Yeah.
And so it's totally meaningless, but it's funny. It's funny.
Now, it's not totally meaningless because you're the only people that got those.
Really? I'll be done.
You're special.
The only person that got it.
Well, next.
Oh, nice picture.
This is a picture of Jenny and I in the legislature. And Jenny was my clerk. And we really worked together, and we had a good time. And that was taken sometime during the period that we were in the dorm. We're getting close to the end, folks. What next? Is there a next? Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, does anybody have any questions? Anything that you want to point out?
The house and barn that got burned down, you said on the Codfish, is that where you live?
No,
It's a different place.
that's on Codfish Hollow. And our place is on the main drag, well,
Right.
Codfish Hollow is the main drag too.
Yeah.
But they're totally separate,
Different
two
places.
different farmsteads. The one that we demolished, burned down, was the original Stewart house.
Right.
And then where the Heritage Farm is where we live, and everything is intact. In fact, we tried real hard Tom and I have tried real hard to keep everything looking good, and in regard to the barn, which is a historic barn.
So is the Heritage Farm also a Stewart farm?
Yes.
So
It was bought in 1905, the way I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Stewarts came in 1866.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
wow.
we call it the Heritage Farm because Mom and Dad have moved to town now.
Yeah.
And so we try to keep the farm straight. We call that one the Heritage Farm because it's associated with the 80 acres where we burned the houses and everything down.
Okay.
That was the original 80 acres that got us the Heritage Farm designation a few years ago.
Okay. Were they near each other by backland?
Oh, yeah, they butt right against each other.
Okay.
The original homestead is down on Codfish Hollow. Where we call the Heritage Farm, where Mom and Dad lived and
Right.
Grandma lived,
Okay.
is on 317th Avenue.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Roger, I have a question. My understanding is that original farm on Codfish Hollow, at one point Uncle Clark lived there, and he didn't
Yeah.
get married till he was 80.
Yeah, he was a slow starter. But that's where Uncle Clark, that's where the original Stewarts were on Codfish Hollow. Yeah. We moved to town now, and Tom's doing a great job, and so we're happy about that.
Who lives on Heritage Farm?
We rented to a young lady who works at the doctor's office here in Macocum. One thing I'd say before I go, if you noticed, I didn't bother you with a lot of political stuff. So maybe that's another time.
And you heard that, another time.
I'm going to change, make a liar out of you. I'm going to ask you about politics. What was your most memorable thing that if you had to list your most memorable thing that happened while you were in the Senate, what would it be?
There are lots of important things that we did, and Bob did too, but we were in control for a while. Democrats were in control. And one of the things that I have a picture. By the way, Jenny kept a scrapbook. We have 10 huge scrapbooks of what happened when we were in the legislature. You've seen those, Bonnie. I mean, they're really nice. And one of the things, in fact, I've got it up in the car, and I didn't bring it down, one of the books, for 2008. And one of the things I really remember, we got a picture of the Senate chamber. We're in the Senate chamber, and we're voting on the no smoking ban. It's in 2008, and the bill was to ban smoking in public places. And believe it or not, it was very close whether it was going to pass or not. And I've got a picture, Jenny and I and Jack Hatch, some other people were looking up at the screen where it shows the tally of that, of whatever bill is up. And we're looking, wondering if that bill is going to pass, no smoking in public places. That seems odd at this time. But we're looking up at it, and it passed in the Senate. There's 26-24.
Roger,
Yeah.
it happened fast. I mean, all of a sudden, it seems like it was brought up and and all of a sudden, Iowa was a no smoking state,
Yeah.
right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it was brought up in that session in 2006. I don't think it was. deliberated, and I remember very well going to a number of open houses where people could come, and I remember a couple where there were bartenders who came were not happy at all. But we always did the seminars or public meetings. We always did that. I did, and Bob did too. We did. I know I went to Dubuque, I went to Clinton, I went to DeWitt, I went to Macoka, I went to Bellevue. We did it somewhere every weekend that we did that. But that's the one I kind of remember, is because it was so close, and it seems, at this time, it seems odd. The other thing that was, no, I'm not going to.
You should do it. Go ahead.
Any other questions?
Roger, do you miss your time in the Senate, and do you have any plans to run again?
Well, here's one of the things that troubled me when I was in the Senate. The Senate staffer, his name, I can't remember his name, and I was 70 when I ran. I was 70 years old when I ran for Senate and ran 2 terms. And one of the staffers always called me old man. And I kind of got under my skin a little bit. But now, heck, everybody's old, so I guess I'm eligible. But I assure you, I'm not doing it.
Do you have a favorite memory of John that you could tell us about?
Well, I have a picture. My breezeway has got a lot of stuff in it, and a lot of stuff that I have. My favorite picture of John is we were at a event on Main Street, downtown Main Street. I don't know, it was some event that we're having for the chamber or something, and we had an event where you put a pie, you bought a pie to put in the person's face. And I've got a picture of John putting a pie in my face. He looked really happy. But it's in my breezeway. But I do have lots of stuff.
If the story can be told, could you tell how you and Jenny met?
Yeah, Jenny and I guess a lot of people know this, but Jenny and Ann Osterhaus were both from Emmitsburg, Iowa. And Ann was, and I hope she's feeling better, Bob. And Ann was ahead of Jenny in school. And so I went to Cornell, and I was a sophomore at Cornell, and Jenny came to Cornell, and we had at that time what's called chapel. And there was a church, it was like a church, there was a lower level, and then there was a balcony. And I remember one day, when we were just starting the year, it was in September, October, and I looked over in the balcony, and there was Jenny. And so that's how we met. Oh, the other thing that we did is that we didn't have any money, and Jenny will tell this story, and she said that I would play cards at the Murder Hall to make enough money that we could go out and have a hamburger.
She accused you of cheating. She accuses you of cheating on those cards.
Yeah. Well, I thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Roger. If I could just say 2 things. I would like to say that for the Historical Society, that we would not have this building, we would not have this property, if it hadn't been for the time period that we were doing this, that wonderful people like Roger and Bob Osterhaus and Tom Schuler, somebody else, I'm missing somebody. All of these people were in Des Moines at the time, and they were so helpful. Get the building on the National Register, and they just helped us hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. We would not have made it without these people.
I have one little thing to add to that, and that is in the blue book that I have in my car, in 2008, the year that we passed the bill we just talked about, that was the year that this place opened up. I have in that scrapbook an article in the Maquoketa Sentinel Press in regard to opening up. I also have in that scrapbook a thank you letter that came from Bonnie Mitchell in regard to the work that we did, and that I've kept it, and it's in this scrapbook.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger. So, just one other thing I'd like to say. Roger went through his pictures, and he just picked out pictures that were important to him, and that told his story. And he was so worried that people were going to think that he was bragging or something.
Pardon me, I just got to tell you that. I skipped over. Did I tell you?
But you wouldn't let us show the picture. But we
Well,
saw it.
in regard to being only the drag lady at Fairfield Independent, I have a picture to prove that, but you're not seeing it.
But Don and I got to see it, and it was gorgeous. We encouraged him to leave it in, but he took it out.
I just didn't want it to be on YouTube.
That was really funny. That was really funny. But if everybody would just go home, go through their box of old pictures, it'll just tell your story. And you can just come and look at the pictures, and this brown bag lunch will just come out that will be just wonderful. Lots of Tuesdays left in the year, so we need more brown bag lunches, but this was awesome. Thank you.